are academics different, or is academic work different? The answer is yes. Academic work is different, but it's different in a way that medical work is different from preaching work, is different from the work of air conditioning installers, and so forth. In each field, we're going to note differences between the practices. The next question, however, is academic work and are academics special? And there's a tendency to elide these two questions, to note the distinctiveness of academic work, which I think is appropriate, and to translate that distinctiveness, or to move quickly from that distinctiveness to an assertion of specialness. In its most pronounced, and I would say most virulent form, this amounts to a claim of academic exceptionalism on the model of American exceptionalism, but the claim is even higher. Academic exceptionalism, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So obviously, one cannot yet at this time, at least before I finish, identify what academic freedom is, but one can say that it is a contested concept. And it is my task, as I said, acknowledged before, to map out the field of contest and therefore introduce you to the various approaches. Now, on the first page of your handout, you will find the 5 versions of, or approaches to, academic freedom neatly lined up in a way that will allow you to compare them. And let me say that they go from right to left. That is, they go from, actually on the page, from left to right, but when you go from 1, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, you're going from right to left. Now, the right to left is, in fact, could be seen as a marker on a continuum that is internal to the academic world, or it could be seen as a right-to-left continuum that, in fact, intersects with the political world. And that, in fact, happens to be the case. It is not, of course, an ironclad rule, but I will say that as you get further and further to the left of the academic continuum, the people who are members of that particular school are going to be further and further to the left politically. Now, I place myself on the absolute extreme, far right-wing end of the academic continuum. And if I can read just what's here on your page, I say, that's me, number 1, academic freedom is the freedom to do the academic job and not the freedom to do other jobs. And that's for me, that's an absolutely important point. It's important to identify, as I've already said, what the academic job is before you can ask the question, what freedom belongs appropriately to the performance of that job? And then I, helpfully, I hope, and narrowly, define the academic job for you, and it has only 2 components. 1, to introduce students to bodies of materials with which they were previously unfamiliar, and 2nd, to equip students with the discipline-appropriate analytical skills. That's it, nothing else. If you're doing anything else in the classroom, you have crossed the line, and you are no longer performing academically. You are performing in a way, A, for which you were not trained, and B, for which you are not paid. That is, no one, no board of trustees, no state legislature, no board of governors, pays academics to be therapists, to be producers of citizens, to be political agents of change, to be parents, and to be warriors in the war against injustice. This is the most compelling of all clarion calls to which many academics fall immediately. Addressing or redressing the many instances of social injustice in the world is, of course, a noble pursuit, but it is not something that we as academics should be doing. and the moment that we do it, we have betrayed both our politics by trivializing them and bringing them into the narrow academic sphere, and we have trivialized at the same time the academic sphere. When we bring politics into the classroom, which is quite different from bringing political issues into the classroom, but when we bring politics into the classroom, inevitably we're doing bad politics and bad pedagogy, period. I call my view of what should be done in the classroom by the very ugly coinage, academicizing. I urge everyone to academicize. And what does that mean? It means that there's no restriction whatsoever on the kind of topic that can be the object of academic interrogation. It's just that when the topic is brought in, and it can be a hot-button political topic, when it's brought in, it's subject to academic interrogation. And it is not, in fact, made the basis of some kind of decision that the students and or the faculty member are reaching together. Or as I put it, when you academicize a topic, you detach it from its real-world urgency, where there are votes to be taken or wrongs to be remedied. And instead, you insert it into a context of academic urgency, where there are accounts to be offered and criticized, and analyses to be developed. Anything can be academicized. Everything should be academicized. The usual objection, among many, to the project of academicizing is that when you academicize something, you aestheticize it and take it away from its context of real-world meaning, to which I say, yeah, that's right, because that's our job. That's what we are able to do. Now, going from right to slightly left, we come to number 2, which is the AAUP position, American Association of University Professors. And that's a position which is roughly equivalent, as I indicate, roughly equivalent to standard variety mid and late 20th century American liberalism, as we have inherited it from Hobbes and Locke, John Stuart Mill, Isaiah Berlin, and more recently, authors like John Rawls. Now, what liberalism above all imagines, is a split between the political sphere and the private sphere. It's in the political sphere that you and I meet together to try to negotiate the very many conflicts and coordinate the very many activities that make up our daily life. And according to liberalism, according to classical liberalism, when you do that, you are not supposed to be urging or attempting to instantiate into law your own particular religious or philosophical or moral views. That is, what you're trying to do is ask questions in relation to a general idea of citizenship, citizens being identified by Rawls and other political theorists as persons with capacities with the capacity for autonomous choice. Liberalism is zealous to protect the individual's capacity for autonomous choice, but is entirely and programmatically indifferent to the content of that choice. And that's the crucial fact about the classical strain of liberalism that I'm talking about. What this means, then, is that in the political realm, you operate as if each fellow citizen were just like you, even though you know that he or she isn't, even though that you know that some of them hold and believe in absolutely horrible ideas. But for the purposes of political life, you're going to ignore that, and you're going to regard each citizen as someone who should be treated equally and fairly in terms of the categories of the distribution of rewards and goods and so forth. Now, what that means, as I've already said, is that religious and moral perspectives are not to be the basis of political decisions. But neither, says liberalism, are moral and religious perspectives simply to be denied or swept under the rug or never heard from. Rather, they are to be fully elaborated and enjoyed and allowed to flourish in the private sphere. That is, the hearth, the home, the synagogue, the mosque, the heart, and the mind. And that's where the liberal idea of academic work comes out. You will have heard, and I myself dislike but cannot find a way to do without, a phrase called the life of the mind. Usually when someone invokes the life of the mind, I either want to run away or get out my gun. I, in fact, don't have a gun, but that's my instinct. But nevertheless, the phrase has a usefulness, because the life of the mind identifies quite neatly what goes on in academic work. Ideas, projects, pieces of history, everything is considered in a way that is largely internal to a mental landscape and stops short of moving into the landscape of political action. And so the academic attitude, or the way of doing academic, or the appropriate way of doing academic work under this liberal vision, is to submit every idea and project to critical scrutiny for the sake of submitting every idea and project to critical scrutiny. And that's what you keep on doing, and you keep on doing it, and you keep on doing it. Now, in order for that to happen, of course, no idea can be stigmatized in advance as beyond the pale, and no idea can be canonized in advance as an idea so sacred that we can't question it. And that's the academic life, according to the AAUP version of academic freedom, which, as I've said, is a version of liberalism. Now, the AAUP version, at least that's been articulated most recently by people like Robert Post and Carrie Nelson, the president of the AAUP, also says that the academic activity of living fully the life of the mind is done in the service of mankind. So the title of the book that Robert Post has just co-authored is For the Common Good. So in this position, or if within this view, what we do as academics is for the common good. We work not for anyone in particular, but we work for everyone in general, even though many of those for whom we work don't appreciate us or recognize what we do. What this also means is that we don't work for the people who are our putative employers, deans and provosts and presidents. Those people are just there kind of to keep the trains running and to keep our salaries coming. But they are not in any strong sense our employers, and we are not responsible to their vision of things. We are responsible to a higher vision. Now, this little difference between my view and the AAU view becomes very big, because once you've decided that what you work for is the common good, the way is open to challenging any feature of your workplace on the basis of a judgment that it does not serve the common good. So invoking the common good, I'm going to say, will lead inevitably to the final late stages of academic freedom subject 5, topic 5, where you are inhabiting as you'll see in a moment, a quite radical world. The AAU people do not inhabit a radical world. No, they shrink from a radical world. But their invocation of phrases like for the common good and their insistence, which goes back to the late 19th and early 20th century, their insistence that academics work for the public or for the great tradition and not for their putative employees is, I think, an extremely dangerous proviso and leads to very bad results. Now, the third category of academic freedom, which I might call the category of mildly postmodernist or post-structuralist